Hello, I'm Tammy Shiambade, Houston-based attorney and host of Ask Tammy Live. And today's question of the day is, can I trademark a name that someone else is already using? Now, this is a question I get asked all the time, and it's a great question. So here's the answer. It depends. With a strong leaning towards the side of no, but it depends. And let me unpack that a little bit more. Why am I saying it depends? Well, let's say you want to use a name that someone else is using, but they are not in the same lane as you. Perfect example, we have Delta Airlines and we have Delta Faucets. Delta Airlines is operating all the way over here. Delta Faucets all the way over here. Is it likely that someone is going to mix up the two companies? Do you think that someone who is looking for airlines, right, booking a flight, is going to accidentally try and book a flight with the faucet company? No, there's not a likelihood of confusion there, right? And so in such instances where the name that you're trying to use is a name that's being used but in a different industry with different goods and services, then yeah, maybe. If, however, you're trying to copy the name or do something similar, use the name of a product or a service that somebody else is already using, even if they haven't already registered it, but you're in that same lane, you know you're wrong. We don't have to talk about, there's a legal side to this, but you already know what you're trying to do, right? And so we're going to say that that's a no. And the law is going to agree and say that's a no, because they do not want a likelihood of confusion. If you're trying to operate in this area where somebody else has already established their roots, why are you trying to do that? It's not nice. And the law reflects that. They want to look at first use. So when they're looking at who has stronger rights to a name, surprisingly, it is not the first person to register the name. It's the first person to use the name. And registration serves as proof of your use. It's not the only form of proof that can be proffered or provided, but it is strong proof. And it also provides notice to the rest of the world that, hey, this is my lane. I own this area. Okay, so don't come and play over here. Right? So that is what essentially happens. And that's where you get that strong no. If it's a similar service, then you don't want to do that. But if you're in two different areas, so we already gave the example of the Delta. There's also this golfing company called My Girl. So they're talking about the golf clubs. And so they're called My Girl Golf Clubs. I don't know why. But they've registered a mark when it comes to golf clubs. There's another mark when it comes to, guess what? Dolls and clothing and apparel for the dolls. That's called My Girl. They can operate and coexist because they're operating in two different markets. They're operating in two different channels. They're operating with two different products and services. They're not trying to confuse each other. They're not trying to steal each other's business. They're doing their own thing, right? And so that's what I want to encourage you to do as well. If you see that someone has something that is similar to the name that you want to use or exactly the same, it's probably better that you go back to the drawing board. And even as a business owner, if there is something that is so similar to yours, like a lot of times I have people who come to me and they say that, oh, it's different from mine because mine, I have two E's and they have one E, or, let's say they're saying Miss Stacy's and they're like, oh, Miss Stacy with a Y and this one is Miss Stacy with an I. Well, do you want your customers to have to think that hard as to which company they're trying to deal with? From a marketing perspective, from a branding perspective, that's not what you want, because that could cause them to accidentally give the other Miss Stacy with a Y the money that they intended to give you, Miss Stacy with an I. The example I gave is very interesting, but essentially that's what you should keep in mind. If you're operating in two different product areas, then it might be okay. But I also want to caution you, when you're deciding what your brand is going to be and the marks you're going to use, think about not only what you're currently selling, the goods and services that you're using now, but the areas where you might eventually expand into, because that can cause you trouble in the future if you expand into an area where there's a mark that already is in use. Perfect example is Apple. When Apple started, there was Apple computers that they created, but there was also Apple Music. Now, they thought at the time that, we're in two different lanes. I'm not crossing into your lane. We're good, right? Music computers or music computers. Well, what happened over time? Apple decided the great idea of iTunes and iPods and all of this music related material, goods and services that they started to provide. And guess what? Apple Music that was saying, hey, we don't want you to play in our playground when they started was like, now you really are making a mistake. And guess what? Apple Music got paid a lovely sum of money by Apple Computers because they were in the right and Apple Computers was in the wrong. So you want to keep that in mind when you're thinking about your name. It's like, okay, right now I'm just selling this, but I think I'm going to sell this, this, and this as well. Let me make sure that those areas I have some type of, I'm coming up with some type of strategy to make sure that nobody else is using it and that that area remains protected for me. That was a lot. I hope it was helpful. If it was, go ahead and like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel, and then follow me on social media. You can find me at TOS Legal. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and you can visit my website, www.toslegal.com, and let me know if you have any other questions. Drop a comment below. Love hearing from you and can't wait to talk to you soon. Have a great, great, great week. Bye.